leave us at 5:30. So forgive me if I go fast through the intro. Colette is so much more interesting than me, so I want to get right to her. Next slide, please. This is just our agenda. We'll have opening remarks by the panelists and go to a Q&A session. We will pause for questions after Colette speaks, just to make sure that you all have some time to ask her questions. She brings a particular perspective that we know you all want to be sure to engage with her. So, and then we will have Brandon and Rosario give remarks and come back for more questions and discussion after that. Next slide. This program is a digitally enabled planning process for minority-owned businesses that are looking to retool their businesses safely and strategically in the wake of COVID-19. Next slide. We have 4 different sectors, businesses in 4 sectors participating. These are all minority-owned businesses, and we're actually particularly excited to have one of our business owners, Brandon Ransom of Include Innovation, on our panel tonight as an expert in web design and development. We're really excited to hear from him about his work in that space, but all of these businesses, I hope you'll hear from many of them during the Q&A session. Next slide. The program is very structured and takes the business owners through a 5-step process to develop a plan to reopen their business or to pivot it safely and strategically. And IXL is building a database of innovative solutions that go beyond just social distancing 6 feet apart to help business owners really innovate around their new strategy and reposition their business. Next slide. I won't spend much time here. These are the 5 steps. It's a 5-week program. Let's go to the next slide. But we do have consulting teams working with each business owner, and they come from the MBA programs at these universities that happen to be local. IXL trains and supervises the consulting teams, but they work very closely with the business owner to help them build their plan. Next slide. And we are also including this webinar series to bring in these very practical issues. And honestly, you will see that we don't have answers to all the questions. We are building this plane as we fly it in the same way that everyone else is. We've never lived through a pandemic or reopening after government shutdowns before. So there's lots of unsolved questions, but our goal here is to grab them, to put them front and center, to bring in people with insights about how we might tackle them, and to try to equip not just the businesses in this program, but all the businesses in the Commonwealth to be able to access the insights and information that we're dredging up here. Next slide. You can skip past this. I don't need to spend a lot of time talking about LISC. We partnered with the IXL Center, which is an unusual partner for a nonprofit like ours because they are a global innovation consulting firm with deep roots in management education. But our partnership with, one foot in social innovation and 1 foot in private consulting is really powerful one for innovative solutions that are scalable. And that's what we hope we'll be bringing out of this program. Next slide. I will tell you a little bit about what LISC has been doing in response to COVID-19, because this program is not a standalone. It's part of a package of responses to try to help small minority-owned businesses survive and survive COVID-19 and thrive, hopefully stabilize and grow after it. We have been doing this program, but we also have small business recovery grants. We have been working with a number of partners to try to make forgivable PPP loans from the federal government available to minority-owned businesses. We have our own financing programs, and we do education policy and advocacy work to try to build the small business ecosystem. This program is funded in part by Mass Growth Capital Corporation, and all of this work would not be possible without the generous support of our sponsors. Next slide. So with no further ado, I want to introduce Colette Phillips. We're particularly honored to have her here with us. Colette is the president and CEO of Colette Phillips Communications, Inc. She launched Boston's premier inclusive business network forum called Get Connected, and it creates the historic GK Get Connected 100, which is Boston's first comprehensive list of the 100 most influential people of color. I think she's been called a social connector who is changing the conversation on diversity, but she is also a nuanced powerhouse in the communications field. I'm sure that I can't do her justice in any short introduction, but I'd rather give her the floor and invite her to tell us about her business and her insights for minority-owned businesses trying to navigate these troubled waters. Colette?
Well, thank you very much, Karen, and thank you also to my fellow panelist and moderator. I am delighted to be here. I know what it's like to be a small business owner and to be a business owner of color and a woman, because I am all of those, and an immigrant. So I fit into many categories. And I know that at this time, having myself gone through this, that we all may be feeling a sense of uncertainty. There is so much going on. Everything that's gone on in the last 3 weeks is making all of us feel a little nervous. We have never gone through, as Karen says, a pandemic like this before. We have not gone through a tremendous upheaval in our country, which I think and hope will all be for the best and for the good. And so I think that we are all poised, I believe, to not panic, but to pivot. And the good thing about what's going on right now is that there are many organizations out there that are working to support small businesses. There are lots of funds and grants and people who are out ready to help. And as Karen pointed out, here at LISC, you are very, very lucky, because you are getting the kind of support when I started my business 2 decades ago that was just not available to small businesses and to people like me. So what do you do at this time in your business as you get ready to go back into reopening, if that's what you are planning to do? And if you are not, this is really a good time, I would say, to think about maybe pivoting to a completely new business or a new opportunity for you, using your skill sets and determining what that may look like. As a small business, I know a lot of small business do not have websites. Well, we live in a very digital environment. And I always say to my clients, as someone who also has a PR firm and a marketing communications firm, people want to be in hardcover print. But you know what? There are more eyeballs on the internet than reading a publication. A publication that may have 500,000 or 40,000 people if you're a small community ethnic newspaper. If that paper is online, it has now quadrupled because more people can see it. So I want to encourage you, as you think about pivoting, and you may not be able to have a physical space anymore because of financial challenges, I would say a great place to move would be to create a Facebook page for your business. And you know, the wonderful thing about being on a Facebook page, you can also sell your goods and services. You can create a vendor profile, as well as work with somebody like PayPal. And if you don't already have a banking relationship, this would be a really good time to think about that, so that your bank can help you set up a system that allows people to buy you online. If you are on Facebook a lot, you see a lot of ads, lots of ads of people saying, you know, click here to buy. So these people are doing exactly what I am telling you you can do, is sell your goods and services online. You have Instagram, that's another very visual, very popular platform. And you also have Twitter. You know, you can be tweeting 50% off, starting to get people to follow you on Twitter. the more frequently you are on social media, the more likely you are to build followers. So I would encourage you to do that and to make your post very attractive and interesting. And maybe you can do something special throughout the week. You know, maybe you will have something Mondays, you know, motivational Mondays, shopping Tuesday. You may have 50% off Thursday or 25% or whatever it is, but something clever that gives people a sense of wanting to follow you and coming on your site. Another thing I would, I'm going to tell you right now that's happening. If you are a minority-owned business, if you're a woman, a man of color, and you have a business, I am going to tell you not walk, run to the Boston Business Journal. They are putting together a compilation of minority-owned businesses, and guess what? You don't have to pay. That's the best part. So I would encourage you to Google, use your phone, Boston Business Journal, get on there and ask. I'll put it in chat or I'll send it to Karen, the person that you should ask for, so you can get on that list. I will encourage you to do that. The other thing I want to mention to you is I'm in the throes of creating a platform. I have already launched a fund that is to really help small business, primarily businesses of color. And this is not for, you know, big money. It's for companies that are exactly like yours. A company where $5,000, $10,000, 25 could make a really big difference. So we are really focusing in that. We think that will be our sweet spot. And it's a nonprofit, it's a social impact fund. And we are also in the midst of that fund, we are creating a marketplace primarily for companies just like yours, where you can sell your goods and services. So keep your ears to the ground. I'll be talking and working with Karen so that you guys can be a part of that. And there are opportunities, as I said, out there at this time for small business. If you live in the city of Boston, I would also encourage you to reach out to the city's small business, Office of Small Business, and find out what are the marketing opportunities that you have. Take advantage of these MBA students. One of the things you might want to do is have your MBA students create a marketing plan for you. You know, something you can implement yourself. You don't want anything too complicated. Just something that you as a small business person can do. One of the things that I was reading, that one of the biggest challenges that most small business have, and sometimes why they go out of business, is lack of marketing, lack of communication, lack of promoting. We get so busy focusing on getting the day-to-day stuff that we forget we need to be communicating with the broader community to let people know that you have something that they may need. You know, figuring out who is your market, who needs your services, who are the people. And just remember, it's almost, think of marketing in the way that if you were having a Tupperware or an Avon party, you know, you would do it with your friends. So you start with your friends and then you create this concentric circle, and your friends can tell 10 of their friends to go on check out your Facebook page. If you are on Facebook, get people to like your page. You know, I can't tell you how many times in a day I get so many requests from people asking me to like their page. And that's a good thing. You know, the more people like your pages, the more popular it becomes. I'll give you an idea that you can do. A friend of mine who loves to cook decided that during this pandemic, as a way to deal with his stress, that he was going to create like a cooking show on Facebook of all places, and that he was going to make food available as a way to sort of make money to people who maybe don't want to cook. They're busy online on Zoom meetings like we are. And so he decided that he was going to do that. Well, lo and behold, in doing this cooking class, it became so popular that Facebook contacted him and basically have now moved him up in their, what they call their aggregator. So that, and their algorithms, because he was attracting so many people. So that, of course, drove his business up, drove his viewership, and allowed people to, you know, contact him about preparing their Sunday meals. You know, they don't want to be cooking on Sunday if they've been cooking all week. So he's now have a steady business that he didn't decide he was going to create. He's a hairstylist. So he couldn't style people's hair, so he decided to style food. So he got creative. That's a form of pivoting. And so let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I didn't say I started the first ever public relations and marketing company by a person of color in Boston. So I think I know a little bit about marketing. And one of the things that I did, and I will tell you in communications and digital communications, because there are lots of people out there, you want to make sure that you distinguish yourself. What is it about what you are offering that is different from everybody else that's in that particular area that you're in, that field that you're in? I was in communications, and I realized that one of the things I brought to the table as somebody who has Latinx in my family tree, Caribbean, African American, that I brought a broad perspective to marketing, so that when people hired me, they got a broad perspective of their marketplace. So I distinguished myself by becoming the first multicultural marketing firm in Boston. So that was, to me, my differentiator, what we call your unique selling proposition. And even when you are on a digital platform, you want to distinguish yourself. So think about what it is you are offering that makes you different from everybody else on Instagram or Twitter or wherever you have your presence that makes you stand out. And I would say that becomes one of your selling points. Also, think about price points. You know, I always, when I'm sort of surfing Facebook or going through ads, or even when I go to someplace like Amazon, you know, you want to do some price comparison. So I would say do some shopping around, go to places like Etsy or eBay and see who has products or services, if you're selling products that are similar to yours, and what are they going for. And you can offer a better more competitive price. And that becomes one of your unique selling opportunities online. Because just remember, right now, everybody is sort of in a holding pattern. Some people have been furloughed from their jobs. Some people have been relieved or released from their jobs. So even though the marketplace, you're going back and reopening, just remember that where you were 4 months ago or 5 months ago is not where you're going to be today. In some instances, it's going to feel like you are in a startup mode, which you are. And so you have to think about, 12 years in 6 months. You have to think about how you're going to move forward in this new reality, and how you're going to leverage digital communications and tools and strategies to really keep your company strong financially, attract new customers, and at the same time maintain a strong brand in the marketplace where people want to come back, they tell their friends, so on that note, I am going to ask for questions, or before I run off to another function that I'm introducing the keynote speaker.
Colette, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And thank you so much for sharing all that information and for sharing your expertise with us, and really giving us a lens into some of the opportunities that we have through this, through this pandemic and these changes that we're facing. But there's also opportunity, as you say, to pivot and be creative with some of the marketing and the communications. When you started, you mentioned, to not panic, but to pivot, right? And think about creatively how you can make your social media presence more attractive and interesting, as well as thinking about the skill set that we have and what we are good at, and how we can leverage that either to change and to pivot, or to grow and create more presence. Can you talk a little bit about how about that, how to make it more attractive and interesting to our audience?
Well, I think one of the things that, as somebody who is considered both on Facebook and LinkedIn as an influencer, it's all about what you are posting. So even on your business page, you may also want to post interesting things that would bring people in. If you are ending up in people's news feed, think about when you are on Facebook, what are the things that captivates you? And typically it's something that's interesting. I'll give you a little secret. People love, for whatever the reasons, animals. They love dogs, they love cats, they like anything that you put on your Facebook page that shows an animal on it. People gravitate. Kids, another great thing. So I would say make your presence interesting. Look for, when I post on LinkedIn, I look for interesting stories, interesting articles that are relevant to the field that I'm in, which is multicultural marketing and diversity and inclusion communications, working with companies around how to make their D&I actually get buy-in from everyone. So I always look for articles. I know I posted something this morning that was on Fast Company about that tokenism hurts women and minorities in the workplace, and it helps men. So I thought that was interesting, and it was all done through a study. So I captured an attention giver on the top of my post so that if you were just glancing at it, it would quickly grab your attention. The other thing I did was something around with the murder of George Floyd. I had something, a capture that says, your employees of color, and in particular your Black employees, may appear to be okay. Chances are they're not. They're angry, they're frustrated, they are traumatized, and they're not okay. And then I had the article and I gave a series of things that I had written to, if your employees, if you have employees of color, here are some things that you probably should be doing. And then I'll give you my last little hint. When all of the whole hell broke loose, I put a quote and a poster that says, this is the time when, if you are a white ally, this is the time to show and demonstrate your commitment and your allyship for people of color. And this post said, I am not Black, but I see you. I am not Black, but I hear you. I am not Black, but I mourn with you. I am not Black, but I'll fight for you. I had that, and I said, and if you are an ally, please feel free to post this on your page. I had about 500 people repost that from all around the world, because again, it was something that touched people, and people wanted to demonstrate that they were an ally. So I'm saying, when you're going to post something, don't just post any old thing. Think about it and think about what the impact that might have. So those are examples of things that you can do to make your digital presence more attractive and more attention getting.
I have a question. This is Frank from Espresso Pizza. And we have not utilized digital at all when you look at the whole context thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain your value proposition
Mm-hmm.
when you're really pivoting to areas that might bring you to where you are going after a market segment that really is not one that's desirable?
Okay,
I'll give you a real life example.
Give me an example.
All right, you mentioned about discounts and things like that. We do not offer discount. Our value propositions is to give people every day a good product at a reasonable, affordable value. If I go into discount, I'm entering into a where I'm going to in my competition, and they offer discount all the time. I rely on my quality and my pricing in order to build loyalty.
Okay, I would say, Frank, this is a new day. Remember, the old way of doing things, we are now in a new reality. And yes, the product and the quality, I don't think you should lose your quality, but you may also want to think, do you keep your price the way it is and keep your pizza, or do you make, you can say a COVID special, come up with something, outsmart your competitor. You don't have to lower your standard or lower your brand, but you can come up with something that is, maybe sell that, make that your selling point in whatever you put on on social and digital media, that it is the quality of your pizzas and your sandwiches and your salads and that's what your value proposition is. So maybe it's not lowering the price, but it's upping the quality without mentioning price at all. Just selling what it is that's good about your product. That's what I would advise you to do.
Okay, thank you.
Colette, do you have time?
You're welcome.
One more?
Yes, I have, it's 5:32.
5:32, so I want to
Yeah,
give you a chance to exit stage left if that's what you need to do.
okay,
Or to give you one last
I am
thing,
so sorry.
That's great.
But if anybody, please feel free. You can put your questions in the chat, and I promise you, I will respond to any question that anybody has that I didn't get to answer.
Colette, thank you so much for making yourself available for this conversation.
Thank you for including me.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it. Okay, Rosario and Brendan and Maria and everybody, thank you so much for sharing this evening with me.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
All
Take care.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's now my pleasure to introduce Brandon Ransom. The question I was going to ask Colette, Brandon, was can we do this ourselves, or do we need to hire someone to work with us to do it? And what are the different ways we can do that? So I'll ask you that question later. How about?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I might be uniquely positioned to give some feedback on that.
I thought it might be a good transition, and she might appreciate it. But let me introduce you briefly. Brandon Ransom is the Chief Executive Officer of Include Innovation. Include Innovation is a full-service web design and development firm, but they are focused on social enterprises and minority and women-owned businesses. They do amazing work building out websites and more, and working in building the digital literacy of both businesses and, I think, kids. I'm going to ask Brandon to tell you more about that.
Yeah.
Really unique background that I didn't know about until I checked out his LinkedIn page and went way back. But Brandon has like a history in like biology and food policy and health entrepreneurship, degrees from Morehouse and Tufts. So he's a very, very entrepreneurial and diversely talented guy, but he's going to tell you about his business, Include Innovation, and the work he's doing in the business.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and screen share real quick. And here we go. Can everybody see my screen? All right, let me go ahead and actually exit out. So here's our company, Include Innovation. First of all, I'd like to go ahead and thank LISC for this fantastic opportunity. So glad to be able to share kind of our experience with digital strategy, communications, and web design. Highlight the IXL Center and in this Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator as a local entrepreneur, local Roxbury-based entrepreneur. It's been a phenomenal experience thus far. I've really enjoyed my time having access to the great minds that are a part of the IXL Center and LISC. So wanted to take the time to go ahead and highlight this program, and hopefully they do it again, or hopefully there's future iterations where additional entrepreneurs can gain support. And finally, if everybody didn't hear Colette the first time, make sure you go and follow up on that Boston Business Journal link. That is a phenomenal opportunity. And you don't realize who reads, how many people read the Boston Business Journal. It's a great opportunity. A lot of people scrape the lists that are there. So if you're looking for a minority-owned business, I do a lot of scraping in Python and web development, where we go and just scrape lists. That is one of those databases that we will parse. So I guess I'll go and I've been kind of throwing the alley to myself, but I love the fact that Karen went ahead and gave me a super duper alley as far as my background. I'm actually originally a health professional. So I did what's called personal health informatics. That's what got me to Boston. I do health behavior change. That was my background and what got me through Morehouse, Tufts, and then Northeastern's College of Computer Science. This is a theory of technology adoption. What our company, Include Innovation, specializes in is we've moved from a health behavior change model and theory to looking at how do we promote business behavior change to improve the social determinants of health. I don't know if there's too many public health people out there, but the social determinants of health are all the things around an individual that help them to be healthy, right? So we focus on economic development, housing, health. We focus on in business, right? Those are really the big categories about how do our organizations work together and how do they make more revenue so we can flourish more as a community. So our business's main focus, if y'all can actually see my little mouse and arrow here, is crossing this digital divide. This is Jeffrey Moore's Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm, right? So it shows, anybody seen a bell curve, right? Or what's called a normal curve in statistics. A lot of times when we look at minority-owned businesses, when it comes to technology, we are in this area, probably more so the late majority to laggards. Some of us, when it comes to entertainment-oriented tools, we will be in that innovator and early adopter phase. Our goal is to move more minority-owned businesses and social impact organizations from being in the laggard tech category with technology into being innovators and early adopters. That's the entire framework of what Include Innovation is and what we're looking to do. And this is more important than ever, and this is pre-COVID data here, right? So before COVID-19, we had 50% of our minority-owned businesses that didn't have a website or online presence. That translates to hundreds of millions of dollars lost and lost opportunities to interact with one another, grow and develop, and create more impact from where we are. We all know that, I don't know if anybody's been peeping at these unemployment rates, but you know, when other communities get a cold, we get the flu. So you're looking at 16% Black unemployment right now. Imagine when these numbers actually hit in November and December, what those numbers are going to be. So our focus is, how are we going to make sure that we're prepared for this change that's going to happen, right? We're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to learn how to work on this new, in this new horizon, in this new frontier, right now, here in this moment. So talk a little bit about us and Include. I think Karen gave us a huge, wonderful alley-oop. So we're a web design and web development company. That is our core business that specializes in helping small businesses and social impact organizations have a great digital presence that helps them make more money, right? And we do that through 3 pillars. We do it through web design, search engine optimization, and search engine marketing. And then we also do it through pay-per-click and paid ads, right? So we look at how do small businesses and social impact organizations manage their reputation online, and how can they use that to either cultivate more donors or help people to take more action or make more revenue. We focus on minority-owned and women-owned businesses. That's our core value proposition, is being in the heart of Nubian Square. That's who we traditionally work with, but we work with people from California to Texas, all races and ethnicities. But we know that if we are most at risk for being impacted by this digital divide, it helps our country be greater and live up to its ideals. So actually for the past year or so, we've been actually technical assistants for the city of Boston. So people are able to go and work with the city to go ahead and work with us to go and improve on their digital strategy. And we work with social impact organizations like LISC, BECMA, E4All, a variety of different organizations to kind of help minority-owned businesses get online. So today, we're closer to like 300 projects completed. We're a ragtag team of different computer scientists. We actually ran community-based technology courses out of the DeWitt Technology Center, where we hire people from the community to go and work on technology projects. We've done projects, web design and web development projects from everywhere from the Bay State Banner, if you've seen their redesign, to the Boston Foundation and the new MLK Memorial, Himes. We've worked with a variety of stakeholders, but we really believe in working with mission-oriented companies and people who have a community-minded focus, where, you know, you can own a pizza shop, you can own a barber shop, but if you believe in really improving where you're at, that's who we want to work with, because that's our purpose. And so I'm gonna just say I have my little 3 things that I think everybody should be doing right now, right? If you talk to anybody who's looking to transition from, hey, I don't have a digital presence or I have a one-time service model, every single person should be looking at specializing in recurring monthly revenue transactions. If anybody's there's a great book by Robbie Kellman called The Forever Transaction, right? She's also written another book called The Membership Economy. It's absolutely pivotal in this day and age that to stabilize your business model, utilize the tools that are at hand. No, gone are the days where you have to go and chase down a check every time you want to have an interaction with somebody. It can come every month through whatever your point of sale system or point of service system is. You can have a monthly transaction and you can provide more value for the clientele that you work with. Second of all, I would say cultivate a subscriber base, right? I think our biggest thing is treat people like people. What would you want to see if somebody was sending you information? Would you like to be spammed with information that's not relevant to you? You want to cultivate a subscriber base that, like Colette was saying, has useful content. Think of it like, oh, what would be something that I would want to know if I wasn't in the industry that I'm in? As long as you focus on content that's going to be relevant to your audience and timely, you can make a much deeper impact, right? And the final thing that we're seeing that not enough businesses are doing is leverage workflow and process automation tools, right? So too many times, I mean, not even too many times, everybody has Facebook, right? Most people don't know that Facebook, you can automate your post. You don't need Hootsuite, you don't need a variety of tools. You could set out your post just using the stock platform. You could set out your emails, whether it's using Wix, Eventbrite, MailChimp. There's a variety of different tools, but it's looking at how do you orient the suite of services that are available within your business to be timed, right? Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's really where we come in. We really work with businesses to help. If you're not technically oriented, some people are technically oriented and you could do it. I mean, I think that's the beautiful thing about COVID-19 is it's an excellent opportunity to learn about new skills that you might not have originally known about. But there's also the option of working with an organization like ours, which is include web design and web development. We help you put all those little knickknacks together around your business to help you to be more successful. So I know that most people don't look at their website as a management tool, but what we do is we help business owners to use their website as a portal for keeping track of key performance indicators, right? How many people are opening up your emails? How many transactions have you made? What are your profit margins per transaction? How many subscribers do you have? And putting in place systems, we actually are really good with JavaScript. Not everybody is good with JavaScript, but either using point and click tools or JavaScript oriented tools, you can go astronomically far, right? So we basically have 8 services, well, 9 if you include reputation management, but 8 services where we walk people through our digital accelerator program, first by getting them a website up and running and doing SEO optimization, specializing in pay-per-click management and retargeting on Google and Facebook. And they're really looking at a system of different paid services that we subscribe to so that you don't have to, right? And after you've got that up and running, you're able to increase your sales precipitously because there's a magical difference between being online with a robust online presence versus, you know, having your cousin do it. Now, that really ends up, or having an intern do it. There's a difference between a professional, thank you, Karen, once again. There is a difference between working with a professional as opposed to doing it alone, but there's nothing that says that you cannot do it on your own. And I implore more minority-owned businesses to really work with and take advantage of tools like Coursera, edX, Khan Academy. Those are excellent opportunities. And as we partner with more social impact organizations, it's really our mission to do more free workshops, free seminars to make sure that people know about these available tools. And so speaking of free, if anybody is interested in a free site assessment, like I'm not one of, anybody who knows me can tell you, you know, I love getting clients, but really it's about sitting down and making sure what needs to happen in our community happens. So if you want a free site assessment, I can give you some guidelines as far as how you can improve your site. If you choose to go with us, that's great. But more than anything, have some direction moving forward, because, you know, like I said, if you don't prepare now for what's coming in the future, you will miss out. That is an absolute guarantee. We've gone from 20% of your business maybe being online to where it's going to be 80%. You know, it's a switch, complete switch of Pareto's principle. So please come speak with me. Put some information in the chat, your information in the chat, or email me I'm Brandon at includeinnovation.com, or go and message us at includeinnovation.com. Love to speak with you, because that's where our mission is. We want to make sure that minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and social impact businesses are able to make our community better. So thank you.
Awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much. I know I have questions for you, and I'll bet our participants have questions for you, but we're going to let Rosario give us some of her thoughts first, and then we will come back for an open conversation with everyone. So my last introduction of the evening, big shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much. You are, as always, one of the most energetic and compelling presenters and speakers. I always appreciate your energy. Rosario Urbiera Minaya is the Executive Director of Amplify Latinx. We have been working closely at LISC with Amplify since COVID hit on our small business programs, most particularly trying to get the trying to get PPP loans, forgivable PPP loans to minority-owned businesses. Amplify has some of the most amazing and effective communications of any of our partners, I think. It's one of the reasons we asked Rosario to join us on the panel tonight, but Rosario is a Afro-Latina leader, a community activist, and a social entrepreneur. She's originally from the Dominican Republic, and she has over 25 years of experience working and advocating for systemic change, social justice, and equity on behalf of the Latinx community in the areas of education, housing, voter engagement, public health, and the arts. But she is also an artist, and she is the founder of Cojuelos Productions, which thrives in creating curated experiences for private, corporate, and community settings with an emphasis on cultural and educational programming. I did not know, actually, that Rosario was, her vision led to the Punto Urban Arts Museum in Salem, which LISC actually likes to talk about, not because that was our vision or our creative baby, but because we financed the affordable housing buildings that have been used predominantly as the canvases for that outdoor art museum, which may be a fun fact for you too, Rosario. She's received numerous awards and recognitions. I will again skip over them. We will be sharing bios on when we share the presentation after the webinar, because I want to give over to her voice. Rosario, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for having me and inviting me to this panel. By no means I'm an expert on communications or marketing, but I love to be part of this conversation as I bring to you more information about Amplify Latinx and our communications strategy. My fellow panelists are the experts, and they were able to share great insight and information with all of you. So what I bring is more of a lens, more of a general broad lens as a nonprofit organization, in how we have approached not only our communication strategies, but how we have pivoted to face this pandemic and the challenges that we have faced. With that said too, as Karen mentioned, I come also with a lens or the experience of being an entrepreneur of color, starting my own business 3 years ago. And my business, focus on entertainment and programming and working with artists and convening people, and all of that changed, with this crisis and this pandemic. So I also am in your position of quickly thinking creatively on how I can utilize digital tools to continue engaging my clients and my audiences. And so I'm with you in this conversation. I feel you. But what I can tell you about Amplify Latinx is that we are a nonpartisan collaborative movement, and our mission is to build Latinx economic and political power by significantly increasing Latinx civic engagement and representation representation, and we always aim for leadership positions across sectors in representation at opportunities to decision making, and also to create wealth for our communities. So we praise ourselves in being an organization that is advancing the next generation of Latinx civically engaged and empowered leaders. So that's a very broad, mission. We have a lot of work to do to get to our vision, but we do that in partnership with many different organizations and groups. We do a cross-sector collaboration. We have over 400 partners and over 3,000 members. And I will say that since the pandemic started, our membership has increased. And that's in part because of all the programming that we have moved to our digital platforms. We have, as an organization, we have developed a communications strategy, but we weren't there 3 years ago. So this is something that has taken time for us to get to this point, and I appreciate hearing from Karen and others that they appreciate our communications. But it has been hard to get to this point, not only because we were not experts, but also because we didn't know our audience as well. And we didn't know, what are some of the strategies that we could use to engage our audience. So with that, with time and bringing in others with more experience, we have been able to get to where we are now. With that said, I mentioned that we are a convener. Our work really focuses on bringing people together in physical spaces, doing events that engage our membership, creating opportunities for taking action for civic engagement. So a lot of the programming that we planned for 2020 was focusing on that. We do a conference every year with over 500 people, and it's a physical conference. And one of the best parts is to be able to see everybody and interact with everyone. So when COVID hit, we had to quickly pivot. We have to quickly think, what are some of the things that we can do in response to what's happening? Because we had to also recognize that most of our partners were facing challenges. But it was also, a rapidly evolving situation that we needed to find the best way to manage at that point. So we continue thinking about strategies that were centered on Amplify's role as a collaborative movement and coalition building and convener. So we kept that really in mind in terms of what's the role we play. We knew that in many occasions we couldn't provide services. We couldn't provide things that were really immediate needs at that point. And so we needed to find our line and really determine where do we bring value. So we kept in mind our 3 priority areas that are civic engagement, economic opportunity, and leadership representation. And then we say, so we're gonna do 3 things. We're gonna communicate and disseminate resources and maintain that communication constant, but also relevant, like Brandon said, like making sure that the information that we share is information that is relevant and interesting to our audience. We don't want to be everything for everybody. We needed to understand who is listening to us, who's interested in what we're doing, and engage them, and hopefully grow our audience that way. We also said that we wanted to transition our planned events that we had to virtual platforms. And that was an interesting exercise to do because we planned all of those events with physical spaces in mind. So how can we pivot and bring as much opportunity for interaction, but now on an online platform? And then the third piece is advocacy, and to ensure equity and availability of and access to resources for our membership. And we did that mostly working with other groups, collaborating with others in using the digital platforms in our network to advocate for change, you know, to make sure, for example, that our Latinx businesses and Black and Brown businesses in our communities were getting access to resources, and use the platform to bring more people into that conversation. So we continue serving as a leading voice and as an advocate to our Latinx communities. And we continue to collaborate and share knowledge and leverage our collective resources to achieve this systemic change that we've been talking about through our mission. The pandemic created the opportunity to do that. And it has been, you know, a transition phase, but at the same time, it has been really interesting to see how we've seen our membership growth given this, this new approach to our programming. So we use, what we do is we do have a clear mission as an organization. And as I mentioned before, we have worked in really getting to understand who's our audience. So in your case is who's your clientele, and how to engage them. So through some of the tools that we use are the traditional tools. We have a website. We use social media channels, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But we also use a lot of the tools through Eventbrite to create our invites and to manage our events. So it's a great tool that integrates with the rest of the social media, like it was mentioned before, especially with Facebook. And we can do that kind of like cross promotion. We do have another tool that we use that is called Hubspot. And that tool, we can manage different communications, including our monthly newsletter and our targeted emails that we do every month. So one thing that I should mention that I want to leave you with, if anything, is that we do maintain constant communication with our membership. We don't want our members and our partners to wonder what we're doing, where we are, or what's happening. We want them to know what we do on a weekly basis. So we keep that communication through our social media platforms and through our targeted emails constant. Even if it's short, is give us visibility and it keep us engaged with them. At the same time, we are conscious that we don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. So we curate our content and make sure that, again, that is relevant and is something that is interesting, that they feel that they want to hear more or be more engaged with. Another thing that we do is that we used a lot of graphics and like Colette mentioned, we use a lot of videos and other things to engage, especially in social media, and to keep things interactive and attractive. And I do get the questions about who's your designer. We don't have a designer for our work. We do it in-house. And we use Canva, which is a free tool that you can use, find online. And it has a lot of different templates. And once you get the hang of it, you start being more creative with it and creating more of your own designs. But it's a great, it's a tool that we find useful if you want to start creating some of these graphics and some more of your content to share on social media. So another thing that we have is that we have developed guiding principles for our communications. So we with those guiding principles, we're not only, again, clear about who's our audience, but also what's the tone and the messaging that we want to use. And that goes along with branding and how to present ourselves as a organization, and that tone and that voice and that messaging is across all of the different platforms. So one challenge that we had in the past is that because we do so much, people were confused about our identity as an organization, like what's our focus. So having to do this exercise of having guiding principles for our messaging, as well as understanding our audiences, really helped up to help us to narrow down that and create a more streamlined communications. With that said, I can tell you, analyze your segment, analyze your audience, Build your core editorial calendar with your major events or promotions or activities, any milestones that you hit. You know, make sure that you communicate those. There's opportunities to do that. Be creative with that, but create sort of like a plan for it on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, whatever it is that your capacity can let you do. That's very important to have a plan. And like Colette was mentioning, you know, just use opportunities to promote and create more engagement by celebrating something, doing a campaign. We do a lot of campaigns, and those campaigns lead us to fundraising. So we tied in many different important dates or milestones or our messaging. Right now, we do a lot with voter engagement, civic engagement, Black Lives Matter. All of that is part of our messaging at this point. So that leads to more engagement and to more fundraising for us. And then build communications. For us, is build communication into every aspect of our events. And now that our events are online and through Zoom and other platforms, creates more opportunity for us to do that. So then what we do is that we bring diverse voices into our communications as well. We invite guest writers, guest speakers. We create and elevate our professionals of color in different ways. So we have different individuals that have come in and guest write for our communications, and that creates another opportunity for audience engagement. So with that said, I just want to share all of those points and open it up to questions. But if you feel that you want to learn more about our communications plan and our strategy, we developed a strong news media presence with the work that we do as well. And we are very deliberate about our diversity and inclusion, and use that as a tool for continue our engagement through our communications. I would love to tell you more and share our plan, but I want to give the opportunity for this to become a discussion. So I hope that this is helpful to frame some of your questions, and I'm happy to engage in that discussion now.
Thank you so much, Rosario. It's so impressive, everything you guys are doing, but I really appreciate you talking about how much work you've put into getting there and building one capacity and then the next and then the next. And, you know, I feel the same way about ours. And true confessions, I have a niece who has done some work doing the messaging and working in Canva for us. And it's not hard. It just takes time to go and build that capacity. So pick one place to engage. I do want to get our participating businesses into this conversation, including bringing Brandon back in. And Brandon clearly is the tool that many of them might like to bring to the table in their communications strategy. But we've got a bunch of really interesting businesses participating tonight in the call, and I want to ask them to chime in with some of their communications challenges and questions. I know we have a couple of in our food and beverage, although we have 4 sectors, we have very diverse businesses. So just in the food and beverage sector, we have 2 bar music venues that have really interesting communications pivots. And I think they're both here with us tonight. And I want to invite them to tell us a little bit about how they're pivoting their businesses and what the communications challenges are with that, and how much digital capacity they feel they need to build to do that. I'm sure there are going to be questions in there for you guys, but I'm going to pause for a minute and see if they want to come out of the shadows. I don't know whether they're still logged in. I hope they're still paying attention. Anyone else is welcome to as well chime in. But I have a question for you guys in the meantime. You talked about constant communication, Rosario. And Rosario is going to try to moderate this once we get the conversation going. But I'm going to pitch questions when we have gaps. I feel like the communications highway, the digital highway, is getting very crowded. And the traffic we used to have on the roads, we now have in our email inboxes, in our social media. even literally during this webinar, I've been getting pop-ups, which I wouldn't have on my computer, but I'm on my daughter's computer with Target trying to sell me bike shorts. So it's daunting to try to compete in this superhighway, digital superhighway. How do you just start? How do you, Colette talked about differentiating yourselves. Can Brandon or Rosario, can you talk about examples of people who've done it successfully, or even ways you failed, but what you learned from it that helps you do it better next time?
I can speak about an area that I failed and recently had to go and tame. Whose email inbox looks outlandish right now? With all of these emails, with all of these social media things, I strongly suggest YouTube changed my personal life. I'm more of a website kind of guy. Emails have always gone into, you have your main inbox, you've got promotions, you've got forums. So I usually have just three banners. I change it to where it's a kind of 5-step system within my email inbox. It's red, I have green, red, and yellow, and then blue, and then purple is my random stuff. But green is action is required. I need to go and do something to take action in that inbox. Red, I've already done it. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Yellow is something that's waiting for a response. And then blue is a new lead. And then I have a 5th category that just has exclusively useful information. Everything else I'm deleting. It changed my life. I think that's, we don't talk enough about how email communication is used. It's still going to be a part of your digital strategy. If you have a website, the information and the leads from there, in addition to be on your primary dashboard, will also usually be coming into your inbox. So finding a good strategy or system for keeping files shared and managing projects is really, really important.
Thanks, Brandon. Rosario, you want to swing at that one?
Yes, and so when I mentioned the constant communication, I also warned us not to go into overwhelming people with information, because as Brandon just mentioned, before the pandemic, it was crazy. Now it's like of the roof. Like my inbox is every morning is like a zoo. Yeah. And especially when the pandemic started, everyone wanted to help and send a statement about how their organization was pivoting, or how their business was changing, or how they are still in business. So I warn us that we all fall under that sometimes, and Amplify has done that in the past. So that's part of the mistake. But also in terms of keeping it constant, it's more about keeping it constant in the sense of our different audiences. We have a board, we have partners, we have strategic partners, we have general members. So there's different groups within our audiences. So making sure that we are communicating with them in a very direct voice. So our general email won't go to our board. Our board email will be different. And we might be sharing some of the similar communications, but we keep it very targeted depending on the group that we are sharing with. But also we don't do just email. We have, again, a monthly newsletter, and we have 3 emails that go out every month, once a month, for our 3 priority areas. So if there's something very specific that we want to communicate about civic engagement, that's that email. And that goes to the civic engagement group that in our membership had identified themselves as being their area of interest. And then there's the leadership representation group, in a separate kind of communication goes about that group. So, but also we do a lot on social media. So, a lot of the constant communication happens more on the social media space. where we can share not only resources, but also we can share, information in the sense of articles and other things that people can go and check when they have the time. So, so that's what I can share about that in terms of how we approach that part of the strategy.
It's impressive. You must have a staff of 5 or 6 people to do all that, Rosario.
It's just me. It's just me. So it's just me and the board. So I will say that I have a very active hands-on board, and that includes 2 co-founders of our organization that is still very active. But yeah, so that's why it's so important for me to keep a calendar of what I call, again, an editorial calendar that can guide me on what are the things that are happening that week, and also to set those up ahead of time, like Brandon said. I use Facebook to schedule my posts, or I use Hubspot to schedule things ahead of time, so I don't find myself last minute, unless it's something immediate, most important, like I have to post at that moment, or if I'm doing like a live feed, or I'm doing more of a story on social media, that's different. But for the posts that I know that already tie into my messaging and my events, I do those ahead of time.
Very interesting. We have Frank Carvalho with a question, and then after that, Carlos Espinosa. Frank, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to have to step out in a few minutes, but Brandon, my group under the program, we have identified my website as a weakness, so you'll be getting a call once my plan is put together. Don't worry about that.
Oh, I'm all the way about it, Frank.
Rosario, I do something else besides making pizzas. I run an organization that is a lender and provide technical assistance to, we are a CDFI. I founded it 12 years ago. And I'm curious to find out, when you talk about membership, what does membership mean? What, as a member, do they have to do? Is that a fee? Is that how you sustain yourself? What does membership mean? What do I get as a member?
That's a wonderful question, because we are right now in the moment that we are discussing that as an organization and thinking about our value proposition. And that was something that you talked about at the beginning, Frank. And for us, we don't have a paid membership program, and it's something that we are thinking in developing at some point in the next year or so. Because right now, technically, we don't have members. We have, a network. We call them members, but it's a network. And out of that, they get opportunities for career advancement. They get access to our communications and our resources. They get also introduced to our partners for collaboration and opportunities for exchanges. They get opportunities to take action on some of our advocacy campaigns. So that's part of the membership. For membership for our partners means that they can come and utilize the Amplify platform to elevate the work that they're doing. So in our case, for many of the groups and organizations that we partner with, they don't have marketing tools. They don't have a staff that runs their marketing and their communications. So having this wide network as part of our organization, we promote their events and their programs and their opportunities in our newsletter and our platform. So a lot of our content as well in social media and other communication tools come from our partners. We feed a lot of our content from the work that they are doing. One of our main our main strategies is to really elevate our partners and our members. So that's kind of like the value proposition that they get. Many of them have identified this marketing opportunity for them as very valuable, because again, they don't have the time to produce a newsletter, or they don't have the tools or the skills to do it. So having us incorporate their content in our communications goes a long way for them when they are promoting their services and promoting their mission.
Thanks, Rosario. I'm gonna ask Carlos to ask his question, but to introduce himself first.
Yes, thank you, Karen. My name is Carlos Espinosa. I am the Director of Small Business Services at JPNDC. My question is, I wanted to know more about one of the best ways that I can encourage the business owners that I work with to express themselves in a social media approach. I have experienced that even though the tools are out there and folks can use it and can be prepared to use it, there is a certain approach or maybe even the knowledge of a different kind of way of expressing yourself or a language that is social media. And I wanted to know if there's some pedagogical approach that you guys have used in order for people to, let's say, lose themselves a little bit more, or become a little bit loose to be able to provide that information in social media that they need in order to attract clients.
Brandon, do you want to take that on? Or?
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought he said Rosario, but hey, I can definitely take that. You're creating, like any business, you're creating a tribe. You know, I think that that's kind of what you have to look at it, is you're creating a tribe of people that have similar interests around what you're good at, right? That's really the approach that you have to take as a small business owner. Every small business owner has something that they are excellent at. How can you feature and highlight that and service as a connector between those people that you support, right? I think that just like Rosario was just saying moments ago, it's that opportunity for Jan, who met Judy at Tails, at Tails, which is one of the local companies in JP. They had an opportunity to meet them there. Finding additional opportunities for Jan and Judy to meet, whether it's through networking events, online events, or just coupons that they can use at the store. I think that that's really the mind shift that has to happen. Is we are in a membership economy. I mentioned that earlier, and I can't emphasize enough how much that could change a person's perception, especially if they're not necessarily from that tradition. I think that, for us, most of the time, most people that we work with are usually between the ages of 40 to 65, somewhere in that age, are running a organization or nonprofit. But what they're looking for and what they should leverage is, if you're not a person who specializes in technology, it's really useful to have somebody who loves that and they play at what you hate to do, right? And let them kind of train you and show you how to set up your training wheels, and then look to go ahead and learn skills as you're doing that. So that's what I would suggest.
And what I will say about that is, this is a learning experience, and you have to keep it kind of open and flexible to make mistakes. And, social media goes fast, whatever happened yesterday is gone, right? And then you have another opportunity to do more and continue engaging your audience. So it's a constant kind of like, dance that you keep on just learning better and better, and then you are a master at it. Right? But don't be shy to start, and you eventually will find your voice. I had in my personal kind of like brand as an activist and as a Afro-Latina, I had a platform through my business also with artists of color. And it took me a little bit of time to really find that voice, because I was going in different directions, but I had to start somewhere. And one of the things that I did was to share content that I found interesting, that connected with my mission and with what I was passionate about. So if I saw something about, the voices of Afro-Latinos in, I don't know, somewhere, I share it, and I share kind of like a comment on it. And that started to make me feel a little bit more comfortable on a social media platform. I share a quote, that I found, like Colette mentioned, a quote that connects with me and that hopefully connects with other people. And so I was comfortable to talk about how I felt with that quote, instead of trying to create information or content that I was not familiar with or not, comfortable with. So that's how I started. And then eventually I felt a little bit more in place to do my own content and to start providing more information on that. So don't be hard on yourself if you first starting with this and trying to be perfect at it, or trying to copy or imitate others. Find your own voice, because again, you are experts on what you do. And that's your superpower. That's how you're gonna connect with your audiences. That's how you're gonna find similar groups that are interested in what you're doing. And that's how you start building your network.
And can I say something that might be unpopular for the digital strategies and communication crowd, but I think that honestly, one thing that we're discounting and don't include enough is you have, the biggest thing that you could do in this era is master the gentle art of follow-up, right? They always say it takes 8 times for a person to really remember you online. It's great to have social media. It's great to go ahead and make sure that you have targeted ads around what people are doing, but having that humanistic connection between individuals is the thing that I know in our personal business, that's really what we, if you look at our social media, we really are one-on-one with people, having individual Zoom chats, Zoom conversations, because we are a digital strategy company. But it all depends on what is the thing that you're selling and what makes the most sense for presence, but it's really about what is the conversion process for your particular business.
You are full of those quotes that we're all going to be putting on our social media, Brandon. I like master the gentle art of follow-up. But we have a couple of questions piling up, so let's get to some of them, because we only have about 10 minutes left, and I've got at least 3 lined up. Frank Poindexter is one of those bar owners and live music venues who's making a major digital pivot, I think with help from Brandon. Frank, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about your pivot and ask your question?
Yes, my name is Frank Poindexter, representing Wally's Cafe, and due to the COVID, we know that our capacity is going to change. So what we have done is pivot to streaming services and possibly doing some other revenue generating strategies to try to pivot, from just basically serving drinks to being digital, to being better with our digital platforms.
So for those who oh, sorry, Frank, keep going.
Yeah, so yeah, again, being being able to do more through our digital platform. So we're developing that now with the help of Brandon.
I will say that I've been to Wally's Cafe. I love it. I work with many artists, entertainers, musicians through my business that have started or have been there. And they talk about their experience of being one of their special spaces to jam with artists, to really create that connection. And they talk about, I don't know if you know the concept of third spaces. You have your home is your first. Yeah, so Wally's is that kind of like, I hear them talk about Wally's as one of those third spaces where they feel that, it's a space where they belong. So keep that in mind when you are creating your opportunities online. How can you create think about creatively of transferring that into your digital spaces. How can you create an environment of connection? And I'm speaking from a particular audience, which are the entertainers, the musicians. Create space for that as well.
Thank you very much, Rosario.
Let me get this alley in here real quick. In this period of time, it is incredibly important that we find ways for nonprofits and governmental institutions to partner with people who are experts in technology, because to overcome this, the situation that we're in because of COVID, we're working with Frank based upon a relationship that we have with Madison Park Development Corporation and their summer youth employment program that focuses on opportunity youths. So we basically are just completing a 2-week intensive program, training some local youths on web design and web development, and they're working on establishing their presence. So we've adopted 2 businesses, and I know that organizations like ours would like to do more programs like this, but where it's not just one-time service thing, but we're looking at cohorts, like taking a full year. Like that's, if you look at search engine optimization and really establishing a reputation online, don't think that you're gonna do it in 2 weeks. It's really a 9 to 12 month process, and it takes very focused discipline over time, right? So it's going to take partnerships with bigger organizations that are much smarter than I am about making these relationships for how do we fund creatively these opportunities.
Thanks so much, Brandon. I'm going to pitch one more question. We have Jackie Marte. We have 2 nonprofits in this program, and a lot of the issues that come up for nonprofits are the same as for for-profit businesses. Jackie Marte, would you like to ask a question about your communication strategy and something you want to work on?
Yes. I would like to find out how can I improve. Anyway, first of all, thank you.
What's your
for
Jackie?
sharing your knowledge with us. Sueños Basketball. And it's a basketball organization.
What's the
Have a
name?
lot of youth. Sueños Basketball.
It means dreams.
Like dream.
Yeah.
Dream, and yeah, and in English, yes. So we have a lot of youth, youth, and when you were talking, I think that would be a great idea if we can partnership and you can train our youth so they can be the one updating our webpage. Because we would like to have a web page that engage people, that is up to date. But for me, it's hard because my son, who knows how to do web page, but he lives in Florida, he's the one that did it for me, but I'm not good in updating it because it's very complicated.
Absolutely. I mean, I might be able to say a thing or two. The big thing for me and the conversation I'd love to have with you after this is, how do we help you make more impact, right? Are you focused on getting more students that are a part of your program? Are you focused on having a stronger donor base or working with grantors? Like, what is the ultimate objective, and how can you?
All of the above.
All of the above. Okay, great. So your website could do that. I mean, I always like to say your website is your only person that's working for you 24/7, 365 days a week. As soon as you set it up, it's working all day as your online salesperson. So that's really what it's all about, is how do you integrate this website into your day-to-day actions as a business owner? I see some initial places that you could definitely improve, or definitely look to capitalize on converting more efficiently. I guess this might be an excellent opportunity to use the term calls to action, right? Finding out how to overlay your existing business model onto your website is the most important thing. And I think a lot of my job is when people come, by the time people come to me, they're not coming to me because they have, they're going with the same business model they had 5 years ago. Usually it's a new business model, or they've had to pivot recently. And how do you go ahead and make that right pivot for your business to make sure that you survive, not only survive, but thrive? So that'd be the conversation. I would love to go ahead and talk with you after this. I just sent you a private message. Oh, you sent me the link right here. More than happy. Yeah.
We're going to run out of time, but I do want to.
Quita la cámara y mándale.
Oh, Jackie, you mute yourself now if you don't mind.
I muted it.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for your question, Jackie. I just want to give a shout out to the other nonprofit in the program, which and invite Chris Hope, who I think is on the webinar, if he wants to talk for a minute about what he does at the Loop Lab in Cambridge, because he works with minority youth, teaching them how to create video and audio content, and it just is very germane to the conversation. So Chris, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but if you do, now's your moment, because we're about to run out of time. All right, we are at 6:30, so I know we have probably more questions, but we are out of time. And I want to just give the panelists one last opportunity to give us a parting thought or a takeaway. We've started to try to pull the key takeaways out of these webinars so that we're sharing some of the important content in very digestible ways through our emails. So we're learning as we go, and I want to invite them to give us some of those takeaways as we exit. But first, I just want to thank them and thank all of you for being here. These conversations are richest when you bring your questions and your specific, examples, challenges, opportunities, and ways that you're either doing things really well or that you've made a mistake and learned from it. I believe those are when our conversations get the most interesting. So Rosario and Brandon, thank you so much for your time. Do either of you want to go out with a parting thought?
I can start so Brandon can close it as the expert. What I can say is that, again, it's a learning, it's process. I learn every day. So there's some things that we have set to guide our communications, but there's others that we are flexible about, especially around this time. So don't beat yourself up if things are not perfect at the moment. There's no wrong in the sense of, trying to do better and trying to use to the best of your knowledge the digital tools and platforms that you have. But it takes time, again, to get to a point where you feel that you are happy and comfortable. And once you reach that, you still want to do more. So there's another phase after that. So for us, there's no wrong door to connect. One thing that we make sure through our organization is that we have multiple channels and that people that reaches us, no matter from which direction they come, they find us, and that they get consistent messaging in all of the different platforms that we use. So I will leave that as my final thought, and I pass it on to Brandon.
Thank you, Rosario.
Thank you for that word. Go ahead. Word from our expert. Rosario, you are playing. You have been absolutely the expert in dropping gems and jewels all along the way. So I guess let me go and say first of all, thank you to Karen and LISC and IXL for this phenomenal opportunity. Like, it's been amazing to be up here with people who are much more experienced, better than I am. All I do is I sit in the background and I code from time to time. So really what I want to leave you with is adopt innovation, move faster, go and adopt faster. It's okay to make bumps along the way. It's okay to make mistakes, but really there is no substitute for effort, right? And number two, create your tribe. Really look at it as, how can you be a value creator within society, right? What skill do you bring? Think about what skill do you bring, and think about what you would want to know if you weren't a professional in your area. And it can go a really, really long way, just if you're focused on your email newsletters, doing webinars, as well as having valuable social media content. Those three things can go a really long way, even before you go and work with somebody like me to go and get your website up and online. And look towards, once you get to that point that you're thinking about a professional, really look for folks who are going to put rocket fuel in your engine so that you can grow and take your business to the next level. So those are the three things that I'll leave you with. And once again, my name is Brandon Ransom with Include Innovation, and I'm a web designer. And I think that Karen might be speaking, but we can't hear.
She's muted.
Sorry. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. That concludes tonight's webinar. Next week's webinar is going to be about legal issues that come up for businesses reopening and dealing with COVID-19, all of the contractual issues, leasing issues. Sounds like really exciting, but these are real interesting challenges. We're going to have Priya Lane from Lawyers for Civil Rights and possibly another speaker with us. So please tune in for that. Tonight's webinar, the recording, the slides, and the takeaways and any resources we've talked about will be up on LISC's website under the Beyond 6 Feet Apart Accelerator Program link under our COVID-19 page. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight, and take care.
Thank you.
Good night. Rosario, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Nice.
Brandon. Thank you,
And thank you,
Rosario.
Adam.
Thank you,
Adam is the
everyone.
glue that binds. I got to go ahead and shout Adam out. See you soon.
Thanks,
Y'all-
Brandon. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.